Take a slow breath. In through your nose. Hold it, and let it fall softly out. Feel your chest sink, your shoulders release. You do not need to sleep. Not yet. Just listen. And drift. Somewhere beneath the quiet waves of the Atlantic, a memory hums. It is not the roar of an ocean, but a whisper, a rhythm older than history. The philosophers of Athens once spoke of a city that glowed like morning fire upon the sea. They called it Atlantis. Imagine the night sky over marble halls, the stars reflected on polished stone. Lamps of bronze flicker against the calm water, each flame a heartbeat of a vanished empire. In this gentle light, the world was balanced, wisdom, power, beauty, all woven like threads of gold. And somewhere along its shores, a single lantern drifts across the still harbor, its flame trembling, its reflection silver. Breathe in slowly. 4 counts. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale to 8. And let the sound of your breath join the tide. Atlantis is not a place you will find on any map. It is a thought, a dream, a reflection of our longing to remember. Every civilization is a wave, rising, gleaming, then folding softly back into the sea. And tonight, as the moonlight lingers on your closed eyes, we will follow that wave together. From its golden dawn to its quiet descent beneath the water's hush. You do not need to stay awake to understand. The sea remembers for you. Now, let the lantern drift. Let the silver sea unfold, and let Atlantis rise within your sleep. The night fades gently, like ink dissolving in water. Above the horizon, the first pale thread of light begins to unfold. Not yet gold, not yet day, only the quiet breath between darkness and awakening. You are floating upon the silver sea. Its surface glows faintly, like polished glass beneath the stars. Somewhere beyond the mist, the lantern from the harbor still drifts, its flame no larger than a star's reflection. Breathe in slowly, and let the air settle deep inside. With each breath, imagine the ocean exhaling with you, a rhythm older than language itself. Atlantis was born from such a breath. Long before the names of kings or the carving of stone, there was silence, and in that silence, an island rose from the sea. Not by thunder or fire, but by balance. A world where the mountains curved softly, where rivers shimmered like veins of silver, and where the sky mirrored the calm below. They said Poseidon himself laid his trident upon the waves and drew a circle of protection around the land. But even before myth gave it a god, Atlantis was simply beautiful. The first dawn touched its shores like a whisper over marble. Birds sang above the palms, the sound delicate as wind over shells. The people of the island woke not with alarms or commands, but with the light itself. They built no walls to keep the sea away. Instead, they welcomed it into their lives. Their houses opened toward the water, their steps lined with seashells and coral stones. Children learned to swim before they could run, and every evening, their elders told stories about the ocean's moods, calm, jealous, forgiving. The air smelled of salt and warm clay. Somewhere, a craftsman carved a bowl from translucent stone. When the sun rose higher, the vessel caught the light and held it like liquid amber. They called it the bowl of morning. Kand. Each household placed one upon their window ledge, letting it glow until the shadows lengthened again. It was said that the light of the first dawn kept the soul in harmony with the sea. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture that morning. The hush before the marketplace awakens, the distant hum of sails unfurling, the scent of baked grain and cool mist from the harbor. The people moved slowly, as if aware that time itself was fragile here. Their rhythm was the rhythm of water. Nature anchor, listen. Waves folding upon sand. The sound repeating, then fading, like breath in sleep. As the city grew, so did its heart. Temples of white stone rose near the central ring, each ring a perfect circle of land and sea, an echo of Poseidon's design. Bridges of silver crossed the channels, carrying traders, scholars, and singers between the inner sanctum and the outer gardens. No one rushed. Their clocks were the tides, their calendars the seasons of moonlight. In the heart of Atlantis stood a tall pillar made of orichalcum, the metal of fire and dawn. It caught the first sunlight and sent it cascading across the harbor in lines of gold. At that moment, every citizen paused. They called it the still hour, a breath shared between humankind and the world around them. Take one such breath now. In through the nose. Hold and release slowly through the lips. Let your heartbeat match the oceans. The sound of waves is not so different from the sound within your chest. They believed that peace came not from conquest, but from alignment, the harmony between sea and soul. When storms passed, the people left offerings of flowers to the tide, thanking the sea for its temper. When the harvest was rich, they sang to the moon, believing she carried their gratitude across the waters to distant stars. Sometimes, when night returned, the same drifting lantern from the harbor could still be seen, gliding through the narrow channels, a reminder of their first dawn, the day when Atlantis had risen from the silver sea. It floated, unguarded, never extinguished. Children would point to it and whisper, "There, that is the light that never sleeps." Reflection. What is a civilization but the echo of how we greet the morning? To rise gently is to last long. To shine too fiercely is to fade too soon. Atlantis understood this once. Its people lived in the rhythm between rise and rest, neither conquering the sea nor fearing it. Their strength was calmness, their victory, balance. The sea remembers this, even when we do not. It hums beneath every wave, a lullaby of beginnings. Mini sleep cue. Now, let your breath follow the tide, in, out. Your mind drifts like the lantern, steady, slow. The silver sea softens beneath you. Your heartbeat echoes in the deep. You are safe. You are home. Let the dawn linger a little longer before it fades. The sun has fully risen now, a golden sphere balanced upon the horizon, and the sea beneath it glows like molten glass. Mist curls above the rivers that wind across the island, tracing silver paths through green valleys and quiet gardens. Atlantis breathes, not as a kingdom, but as a living soul. Each morning begins the same way, with water, before work or worship, before trade or song. The people walk to the streams and let the cool current touch their wrists. It is said that the first water remembers the dawn, and so they greet it as they would greet an old friend. The rivers of Atlantis were unlike any on earth. They shimmered, even at night, faintly lit by minerals that pulsed beneath the surface, veins of crystal running deep through the island's heart. From above, they appeared like threads of light spun through darkness. The sky reflected them, and the people began to say, "As above, so below, as in water, so in soul." They believed the river and the sky were mirrors of one another, two halves of the same endless flow. When clouds passed, the streams darkened. When the moon rose, they glowed again, quiet and faithful. And when storms broke, lightning bent across the heavens like roots seeking the sea. Everything was connected. The wind to the tide to the blood, the breath to the stars. Take a slow breath. In, hold, and out. Feel the weight in your shoulders begin to fade, as though some invisible tide were pulling it gently away. Your arms grow lighter. Let them rest beside you, effortless, floating. Now, listen. The sound of water meeting stone. The whisper of palm leaves swaying above it. Every drop returns, every wave completes its circle. So too, they believed, does the spirit. Atlantis was not a city of war, but of rhythm. Farmers tended terraces carved into the hillsides, where streams carried silt from the highlands down to the shore. They grew barley and figs, dates and olives, but always near the flow of water. The sound of the river was their clock. When it quickened, they said rain would come. When it slowed, they let the soil rest. Near the southern coast, a wide channel joined the sea. Boats drifted there, carved from single trunks of fragrant wood. Fishermen whispered prayers before casting their nets, not for luck, but for balance. For to take too much from the sea was to disturb the harmony they called Nemaris, the still point of all life. Above them, the sky stretched without end. The Atlanteans read it as others read parchment. They charted the stars in long curved lines, believing each constellation mirrored the rivers below. The Dragon of the North was a winding stream through the mountains. The Archer of the West, a split in the delta. Their maps were circular, not square, rings within rings, like ripples spreading outward from a single drop. At night, their astronomers climbed towers polished smooth by centuries of wind. There, beneath the vault of the heavens, they watched the pulse of the stars reflected in the slow-moving channels far below. They said that time flowed not forward, but in cycles, each age a tide, each soul a wave returning to its shore. Close your eyes. Picture that world suspended between river and sky. The air hums with the same tone as your breath. The scent of salt and stone mingles with the warmth of early sun. You can almost hear the laughter of the children by the banks, the sound of reeds brushing the water's skin, the soft call of a heron rising into the wind. Now, let go a little more. Your forearms are loose. Your fingers are uncurled. Shoulders sinking deeper into rest. Every motion slowed, every thought like a leaf carried downstream. In Atlantis, no boundary divided earth from heaven. They saw the divine not in temples, but in reflection. The shimmer of a cloud across water, the quiet ripple that erased it. When the river overflowed, they did not curse it. They followed its course, learning where the sea wished to go. And when the sky darkened at dusk, they lit their bronze lamps, setting them near the windows where the rivers could see. For they said the sky also needed light to dream. The drifting lanterns from the harbor multiplied. Their flames mirrored again and again across the black water, 1,000 tiny suns trembling in the tide. One poet wrote, "When the stars look down, they see themselves, and we We are only the breath between them. That was the secret of Atlantis. They did not seek to rule nature, they sought to resemble it. Their peace came from imitation, their wisdom from silence, their strength from flow. Take another deep breath. Inhale. Feel the air cool against your throat. Hold it for 7 slow counts. Now, release. Let the last of your tension drift with the current. The river carries it away. The sky above you opens, vast and weightless. You are between the two, balanced, calm, infinite. Mini sleep cue. Let the breath soften into rhythm. The waves of your chest rise and fall with the sea. The air above is endless. The water below is still. You are floating between them, like Atlantis once did. Light fades into blue. Thought fades into quiet. You are safe within the river and the sky. Evening in Atlantis came not as an end, but as a transformation. The sun's gold turned to amber, the rivers dimmed to glass, and the air carried the scent of cooling stone. All across the city, torches were not yet lit, for the last light of day was sacred. It was known as the hour of reflection, when the sky itself seemed to pause. From the highest terraces, one could see the city glowing faintly, as though it were made of breath and memory. Circles of marble, bridges of white stone, domes that mirrored the sea. Every wall caught the fading sun and gave it back softly, never harsh, never blinding. Atlantis was a city of light, but not of glare. Its beauty was found in balance, light upon water, shadow upon curve, silence upon air. They built as if they were carving air. Every temple faced both the sea and the stars. Pillars rose like waves frozen in motion, arches curved like the horizon at dawn. Each doorway invited light to enter, to wander, to rest. They said architecture was not for power but for peace, a way to remind the mind that symmetry is a form of prayer. Nature anchor. Breathe. Feel the still warmth of stone after sunset, the faint hum of wind between columns. Somewhere, water drips in rhythm, like a heartbeat slowed to half its speed. The great temple of Poseidon stood at the city's center, vast, serene, radiant. It was built from white limestone streaked with blue, so that in the distance it seemed to float between earth and sky. Inside, the air shimmered faintly. Pools reflected the columns, creating a labyrinth of water and light. When the priests entered at dawn, their reflections appeared to move ahead of them, ghosts of what they were yet to become. In the heart of that temple burned a single flame. It was said to have been lit by Poseidon himself, but the people believed something gentler, that it was the flame of memory, passed from generation to generation, never extinguished even when storms came. It was kept within a bronze basin, above which hung a polished mirror. At sunrise, the first beam of light from the eastern window touched the mirror, and the flame shone brighter. They called it the awakening of fire. Take a deep breath now. Inhale through your nose. Hold for a moment, and exhale through your lips, letting your thoughts settle like dust in sunlight. Notice how the rhythm slows. Your chest rises and falls, calm, even, steady. They believed that to look upon the flame was to remember the soul's own light. And so each evening, before sleep, families gathered small lamps and placed them along their doorways. Each home became a constellation. From the hills, The city looked like a sky that had fallen to earth, a mirror of stars resting on stone. They called this ritual the second sky. Children would whisper wishes into their palms, then open their hands to release them toward the lamps. Fathers spoke of tides and time. Mothers sang the lullabies of the moon. It was not religion, it was rhythm, the same rhythm the sea kept, the same the heart remembered. Listen, wind across stone, water in the channels below, the faint song of metal chimes swaying in the night air. Everything in Atlantis was designed to breathe. When the first explorers from distant lands came, they wrote that Atlantis shone like a crown upon the ocean. They could not understand why its people did not guard their riches with walls. But the Atlanteans would only smile. "We have walls," they said, "but ours are made of light." They believed fear could not live in brightness. So their homes had no locks, only curtains that swayed with the wind. Their treasures were not hidden, they glittered in plain sight. Because the more light one shared, the less shadow one kept. Reflection. Perhaps that was their secret. Not strength, but transparency. In a world now full of noise and speed, imagine such calm. A city without barriers. A night without alarms. A people who measured time not by conquest, but by glow. Mini sleep cue. Now, breathe once more. Let your shoulders loosen. Feel the warmth of that temple's light against your skin. The flame flickers, but never dies. It sways gently, just as your breath does now. You are inside the walls of light. You are safe. You are at peace. Let the glow fade softly around you. Let it linger behind your eyes. A single spark waiting for dawn. There came a time when Atlantis reached its perfect rhythm, neither growing nor fading, neither striving nor surrendering. The people called it the Age of Balance, and they believed it was the purest form of peace the world had ever known. Days began without hurry. The morning wind carried the scent of citrus and salt. Fishermen sang softly as they mended their nets along the shore, their voices echoing against the marble docks like the murmurs of the tide. Farmers walked barefoot across terraces still cool with dew, listening to the whisper of reeds as though the earth itself was speaking. Everything moved in gentle alignment. The sea did not rage. The sky did not threaten. Even time seemed to breathe at the same pace as man. In the capital's great courtyards, philosophers gathered under vine-covered arches. They spoke not of wealth or empire, but of equilibrium. The invisible balance between thought and feeling, action and stillness, light and shadow. One of their teachers, a quiet man named Nethron, taught that the soul had two wings, one of reason, one of wonder. "Fly with one alone," he said, "and you will turn in circles forever." And so the schools of Atlantis became sanctuaries of both mind and spirit. There, scholars studied the geometry of stars, and poets recited the music of water. Every discovery was followed by silence, for they believed knowledge without contemplation was noise. Nature anchor. A breeze moves through the garden, carrying the scent of jasmine. A fountain sighs. The sound of trickling water folds softly into the air. You can almost hear it. As your breath slows to match its rhythm. The people of Atlantis had a ritual called the Still Waters. Each season, they would gather beside the inner lake, a mirror of perfect calm. No one spoke. They stood in quiet reflection until the surface stilled completely. Only then would the eldest among them dip a single leaf into the water and say, "Behold, the soul of the island, unbroken." In that stillness, they believed the heart could realign itself. Balance was not something to be built, but to be remembered. Take a deep breath. In through your nose for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 7 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. Slow and complete. 8 counts. Let everything soften. The air flows out like the tide returning home. This was the 4 to 7 to 8 breath. The breath of Atlantis. A quiet key to harmony. Now, feel your body as it follows that rhythm. The chest expands. The shoulders ease. The neck releases its weight. Your breath becomes the sea. Steady, endless, returning. In this age, even their architecture reflected the idea of symmetry. Bridges curved over channels in perfect arcs. Every tower had its twin. Every garden its reflection. Children were taught to draw circles in the sand, not for play, but for memory. A reminder that life moves outward and back again. They measured not time, but pulse. The pulse of the earth beneath their feet. The pulse of the stars above. When they celebrated, they danced in slow spirals around fires that burned blue and gold. Their music had no drums, only flutes, strings, and the low hum of wind through reeds. It sounded like the breathing of the world. Reflection. In balance, they found beauty. In stillness, they found strength. It was said that a person of Atlantis could sit beside a storm and remain unafraid. For they knew the sea was both destroyer and giver. And that fear was only imbalance, a wave not yet complete. Listen now. Far away, thunder murmurs beyond the horizon. It is not anger. It is the voice of the ocean turning in its sleep. Between each sound, the silence grows deeper, like the pause between one breath and the next. At night, under the silver stars, families gathered in the courtyards to share bread and fruit. They spoke softly, their laughter drifting like embers into the dark. No one rushed to finish a story. No one hurried to sleep, for they believed that dreams, too, required patience, a rhythm to enter, a rhythm to fade. Mini sleep cue. Take one more breath. In, hold, and out. The balance returns. Your mind floats like a leaf upon still water. Your body is light. Your thoughts are distant boats, drifting home. You are within the calm center of the sea. You are within the age of balance. Let the hush of Atlantis wrap around you. Let it hum through your chest. And let everything, for a while, simply be. It began so softly that no one noticed. Not with war or greed, but with admiration. A quiet mirror that slowly forgot to reflect. In the age of balance, Atlantis had become too beautiful to question itself. And beauty, when worshipped too long, begins to turn inward. The people still sang to the sea, still placed flowers on the waves. But their songs had grown more elaborate, more for the ear than for the heart. Their temples gleamed with new gold inlay. Their markets overflowed with silver and spice. Visitors came from distant lands bearing gifts. And the Atlanteans, once humble, began to believe the praise they heard. They said, "We are the light of the world." But light, when it blinds, no longer guides. The philosophers debated not balance now, but hierarchy. Some began to claim that the city's perfection came not from the gods, but from their own wisdom. Scholars divided the island into castes: builders, traders, priests, and the royal line, each claiming their duty was closest to the divine. Still, peace held. The tides moved gently, but deep beneath the calm, something subtle shifted. A pride that hummed like a string pulled too tight. Nature anchor. Wind moves through tall grass. Waves lap at stone. Somewhere, a gull calls once, then vanishes into distance. The sound fades, like memory receding from shore. On the hill of Orichalcum, a new tower was built, taller than any before. They called it the Eye of the Sea. Its mirrored walls caught the sunlight and cast it in beams across the harbor. At noon, it glowed so fiercely that fishermen shielded their eyes. Children called it beautiful. The elders called it restless. They whispered that the tower no longer followed Poseidon's circle, but reached beyond it, a finger of ambition pointing toward the sun. Inside, kings held council. They spoke of trade routes, of armies to protect their wealth, of fleets to carry their banners across the Western Ocean. One voice warned, "If the sea gave us all we have, must we now seek to conquer it?" But his words were lost in applause. Breathe slowly. In, hold, and out. Let the sound of the sea return. It still moves beneath every rise. Every fall, your breath is its rhythm, calm, unbroken. For years, Atlantis prospered beyond measure. Their harvests doubled, their crafts grew finer, their songs more ornate. Yet, something had changed in their gaze. Where once they looked inward for harmony, now they looked outward for comparison. They built statues taller, temples larger, ships faster. And when storms came, as they always did, they no longer bowed in gratitude, but cursed the clouds for daring to dim their sky. Reflection. Pride rarely arrives with thunder. It comes as light, too bright to see its own edges. The Atlanteans called it progress. They did not see that in polishing every surface. They erased the quiet reflection that had once guided them. At night, the drifting lanterns still floated across the harbor, but fewer were lit. The young laughed, calling it an old custom for those who feared the dark. The old ones said nothing. They simply watched the lamps disappear, one by one, until the harbor gleamed only with the reflection of the tower above. Take another breath. Let your thoughts drift. Imagine the tower shimmering against a violet sky. The sea lies silent, but beneath its calm, a tremor moves. Not of anger, but of imbalance. A tide gathering its thought. They said the storms of that year came without warning. The first wind carried no salt, only dust from the inland mountains. A sign that the earth itself was shifting. The waters receded for a day, exposing reefs that had not seen light in centuries. Children ran upon the sand, laughing. The priests hesitated. their eyes fixed on the horizon. Nature anchor. The wind pauses. The sea holds its breath. A single lantern still drifts, its flames small, trembling. One poet wrote, "The gods speak softly before they shout." That night, thunder rolled beyond the mountains. Not the kind that frightens, the kind that waits. The people of Atlantis continued their feasts. Music rose from the gardens. Wine spilled upon marble floors, and laughter shimmered through the courtyards. They did not know that the sea, their oldest friend, was listening. Mini sleep cue. Breathe in, hold, release. The sound of celebration fades into distance. The sea sighs, low and deep. You are floating above calm waters, but you can feel the slow pull beneath. Steady, patient, ancient. Let your breath follow it down. Let your thoughts drift. Light as a lantern above the dark. You are safe here, between what was and what will be. The morning after the storms, the sky was pale and soundless. No gulls called, no waves broke. The sea, once alive and breathing, had become still, like glass stretched too thin. Along the harbour, fishermen stood without words, their nets heavy with debris and seaweed. The air smelled faintly of iron. At first, they believed it was only the seasons change. A momentary pause in nature's rhythm. But beneath the still water, the earth had begun to stir. Cracks ran silently along the ocean floor, spreading like roots of something unseen. In the city above, life continued on, almost as before. Markets reopened, temples glowed in morning light. Yet a strange quiet threaded through every sound, as if the world itself were holding its breath. Nature anchor. Listen. No wind tonight. Only the soft drip of water from the temple roofs. The echo of footsteps in corridors of stone. Silence does not arrive suddenly. It grows, filling the spaces where laughter once lived. The priests gathered at the temple of Poseidon. The flame still burned, but its reflection in the water had grown dim. One of them whispered, "The sea is remembering." Another replied, "Then it remembers what we forgot." In the great halls, architects spoke of repairing the damage. Scholars drew maps of fault lines and tremors. But when they looked to the stars for answers, they found that even the constellations seemed to have shifted. The Archer of the West, their sacred sign, had vanished into mist. Take a breath now. Inhale gently. Feel it reach the base of your lungs. Hold it, steady and still. Now exhale, and imagine the tension draining through your spine, your back softening against the ground beneath you. Let the muscles of your abdomen loosen. Your body rests as the city once did, unaware of its own weight. They said the cracks were not only in the earth, but in the people. Friends spoke in half sentences. Eyes wandered toward the horizon. Some whispered that the gods were silent because they had already spoken. Others built shrines higher, as if height alone could save them from depth. And yet, in the midst of unease, there was beauty still. Rain fell one night without thunder. Silver threads crossing the air. The rivers swelled. The gardens drank deeply. Children danced barefoot through the puddles, their laughter echoing between marble walls. For a moment, the city seemed alive again, but beauty now carried a shadow. reflection. Perhaps it is not destruction that frightens us, but silence. The moment when the world no longer answers. Atlantis had built its peace upon harmony, but forgot that harmony must be renewed, not assumed. Nature anchor. The rain slows. Drops fall from leaves in steady rhythm. Far away, the low hum of the sea begins again. Soft, uncertain, alive. In the inner gardens, a philosopher named Nethron, the same who once taught balance, walked alone beside the reflecting pools. He watched the surface tremble as if breathing. A young student approached him and asked, "Master, is the island sinking?" Nethron smiled faintly. "Not yet," he said, "but hearts can sink before stones do." He reached into the pool, cupping a handful of water. "See how it escapes even when held with care." So too with truth. The tighter we grasp it, the faster it slips away. Then he let the water fall, rippling across the surface until all was still once more. Breathe with that image. In, hold, and out. Each breath like a wave expanding, then returning to silence. That night, the lanterns were lit again. More than in years before, old women set them afloat, their faces soft in the glow. Men carried torches to the harbor walls, whispering the old prayers once thought forgotten. The silver sea shimmered under their light. And for a moment, Atlantis seemed forgiven. But deep below, the cracks widened. Currents changed. The fish that once swam near the shore moved outward, their scales flashing like coins in the dark. The sea had begun its slow remembering. One historian of that time wrote, "We thought silence meant peace. We did not know it was preparation." Mini sleep cue. Let your breath become slow again. In, hold, out. Your spine relaxes. Your stomach softens. Each breath flows like a tide beneath the skin. The silence is not empty. It is gentle, waiting. You are resting within it, safe and still. Let the quiet fill the spaces once crowded by thought. Let the cracks become calm waters again. You are floating, unbroken, in the hush before the storm. The dawn that followed the silence arrived golden, almost merciful, as if the world, for a brief moment, wished to forget the cracks beneath its surface. The sky glowed in a clear and perfect blue. The scent of wet stone and salt carried across the city, and for the first time in weeks, laughter returned to the streets. It was the day of renewal, a festival that marked the turning of the season and the gratitude for the sea's gifts. Every year, the Atlanteans gathered to sing, to eat, to remember the harmony between ocean and land. But this year, the celebration felt different. Brighter, louder, almost desperate, as though they were praising not what was, but what they feared might soon be lost. The streets were dressed in ribbons of silver and blue. Children painted shells and wore them as crowns. Merchants hung lanterns shaped like waves from every balcony. And as the sun climbed higher, the city began to glow. The great temple opened its gates, and from its steps came music. Flutes and lyres, the heartbeat of drums echoing softly through the courtyards. Nature anchor. Listen. The sound of the sea folding gently against the harbor. Distant laughter. Wind brushing across silk banners. Each sound rises, then falls, like your own breath, a quiet rhythm of joy and release. In the central square, dancers moved in spirals around a great bowl of water. It mirrored the sky so perfectly that one could not tell which was above, which below. When the music slowed, a young girl stepped forward, carrying a small lantern. She knelt beside the bowl, and as silence spread across the crowd, she placed the lantern upon the surface. Its flame floated, unbroken, a single star adrift on the reflection of day. The people bowed their heads. For an instant, the city felt whole again, as though the breath of the sea had returned. Take a slow breath. In through your nose, hold it softly, and let it fall away. Feel your chest rise and settle, as the air leaves like a wave withdrawing from the sand. But the peace did not last. The earth trembled faintly beneath their feet, so light it could have been mistaken for the beat of the drums. No one spoke. The musicians paused, then played louder. If they drowned the sound, perhaps it would not exist. The dancers continued, smiling, their robes glimmering like foam in sunlight. Denial can be graceful when worn by those who love beauty. Nature anchor. Waves against marble. A lantern drifting near the docks. The scent of burning oil in the evening wind. Each image lingers, fragile but glowing. As the sun set, the festival reached its height. Banquets stretched across terraces overlooking the sea. Fires burned in tall basins of bronze. Wine poured freely, laughter echoed off the water. The king himself stood before the people, his voice strong but trembling. He spoke of gratitude, of endurance, of light eternal. Yet even as he lifted his cup to the heavens, the horizon flickered with a strange reflection. As if lightning had touched the sea from below, the crowd gasped. Then the music swelled again, defiant. No storm could claim this night. They said, "Not tonight." Reflection. Sometimes the brightest celebrations are the ones most afraid of ending. Atlantis danced as though light itself could be persuaded to stay. But light, like pride, cannot be held, only witnessed as it passes through. From the temple steps, the high priestess watched the horizon. The waves, once silver, had turned to a darker hue. She whispered to the attendant beside her, "Do you hear it?" "Hear what, my lady?" The sea breathing in. Her voice was almost a lullaby. No one else noticed. The laughter went on. Fireworks rose into the violet sky. Sparks of gold reflected in the harbor like stars returning home. And amid that radiance, the drifting lanterns began to move faster, drawn by a tide no one could see. Take a deep breath now. In, hold, and out. Let your mind move with those lanterns. They drift softly, slowly spinning away from shore. The music grows faint. The sky deepens to indigo. You can almost hear the sea inhale. A vast, slow sound beneath the noise of celebration. Mini sleep cue. Let that sound become your breath. Inhale with the tide. Exhale with the wind. Each note of music fades to memory. Each flicker of fire becomes a dream. The light of Atlantis glows within you. Gentle, not gone. You are floating, weightless. Between joy and silence, the festival continues somewhere far away. But here, all that remains is calm. Night fell softly over Atlantis, wrapping the city in silver and calm. The air was still, the water mirror flat, and the stars above shone so close that their reflections seemed to float within the harbor itself. From a distance, one could not tell where the sea ended and the sky began, only an endless, glimmering hush. The festival fires had burned low. Lanterns still drifted, thousands of them, forming slow rivers of light that wound between the docks and out into open water. The laughter had quieted to murmurs, then to whispers, and finally to the faint hum of waves touching stone. It was a perfect calm, too perfect. Some would later say, nature anchor. Listen. The sea breathes in. The wind pauses. Even the gulls sleep upon the tide. All is still, a stillness so deep that you can feel it in your chest. A vast quiet beneath the sound of your own heartbeat. Near the temple, the high priestess stood alone upon the steps. The great flame of Poseidon wavered, its light bending and returning, as though the air itself were trembling. She closed her eyes and spoke to no one. May we return as gently as we rose. At that same moment, deep beneath the ocean floor, the cracks awakened. They did not roar or break, they sighed. A slow exhale from the earth's hidden lungs. Sand shifted, coral bent, stones whispered as they slid. No one above heard the first movement. The sea, loyal until the end, kept its secret. Take a breath now. In, hold, and out. Let it fall through you like water through sand. Your body loosens. Your back sinks deeper into rest. The breath is the sea, and you are part of its quiet rhythm. Hours passed. The moon climbed high, pale and immense. Its reflection lay across the harbor like a silver path. A few sailors noticed that the tide had drawn farther out than usual. They could see the tops of reefs glittering in the moonlight, and shells glistening where water should have been. Children ran to collect them, laughing. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked once, then silence again. Reflection. It is always beautiful, that moment before change, when the world seems too calm to be real, when even the air feels fragile, waiting to break. Atlantis floated in that moment like a dream. Beneath the palace gardens, the deep tremor began, a vibration too low to hear, felt only in the soles of the feet. A hum that made lantern flames waver. The sea inhaled once more. A breath that seemed to last forever. Then the wind returned. It began as a sigh across the terraces, then gathered, folding banners, bending palms. The lanterns at the harbor mouth shuddered and turned, drawn suddenly outward, as if some vast hand had called them home. Nature anchor. The wind carries salt now. Leaves rattle against stone. Far below, the sea murmurs again. Not angry, not cruel, only inevitable. In the great temple, the flame leaned sideways, its reflection rippling violently across the water. The priestess opened her eyes. "So," she whispered, "the tide remembers." She did not move to flee. Instead, she lowered her torch into the basin, joining one flame with another. The two lights merged, brightened once, and vanished together in a hiss of steam. Take a long breath. In. 4. Hold. 7. Exhale. 8. Feel your heartbeat slow. The world narrowing to pulse and quiet. Outside, the harbor withdrew again. Hundreds of feet in minutes. revealing ridges of coral and shipwrecks long forgotten. People ran to the docks in wonder. Children pointed to fish trapped in pools between the stones. No one screamed. The sea had not yet spoken aloud, but when it did, it spoke with light. Far on the horizon, the surface glowed, a soft blue shimmer rising higher and higher, as though the moon itself had chosen to descend. The glow became a wall, and then the wall began to move. Reflection. The sea is not cruel. It merely reclaims what was always its own. Atlantis had been born from water, and now water had come to take it home. No one knows the final sound. Some say it was thunder, others say it was silence, but every telling agrees on one image. A single lantern, still burning, rising with the tide, its small flame trembling against the roaring dark. Mini sleep cue. Let that lantern drift within your thoughts. See it climb higher. Soft, unafraid. Your breath follows it upward. In, hold, out. The noise fades. The light grows smaller until it becomes a star among stars. You are floating with it, weightless. The sea closes above you, but there is no fear, only stillness, only sleep. The quiet sea holds you now. The sea settled again, vast, unbroken, endless. By dawn, there was no sound but the wind moving over water. No walls, no towers, no voices. Only the hush of waves folding over what had been. Atlantis was gone, yet something of it still shimmered beneath the surface, like a thought that refused to fade. The sun rose upon an empty horizon, and its light fell through the shallows, illuminating gardens now buried, courtyards turned to coral, and statues glinting like ghosts beneath the current. Fish swam through colonnades of marble. Seaweed curled where poets once walked. In the silence of the deep, the city began its second life, not of stone, but of memory. Nature anchor. Listen to the sound of the sea at dawn. Slow, rhythmic, patient. Every wave that touches the shore is a whisper from something ancient. You can almost hear it. The sigh of a civilization turning into dream. They say the stars were brighter that night, as if the sky had opened its eyes wider to remember. The heavens reflected what the sea had taken. Constellations shifted, their lines rearranging to trace new shapes. A ring of light, a rising wave, a lantern drifting upward. Sailors centuries later would claim they saw strange glows beneath their ships at night, pale blues and silvers winding through the dark water. Some said it was a lightning trapped below the surface. Others, the souls of the Atlanteans keeping watch. But poets whispered something gentler. The sea dreams, and in her dreams, the city still breathes. Take a slow breath, in through the nose, hold for a moment, and out again. Soft and even, your chest rises and falls like the ocean's tide. The rhythm of memory lives inside you too. Far above the waves, the stars trace their own rhythm. Slow, eternal, deliberate. To the ancients who followed, Atlantis became a myth of warning and wonder. Some said it was punishment for pride. Others a parable of balance lost. But there were those who believed it was something more. A reminder that perfection must one day rest. Reflection. Every rise carries within it the seed of its fall, not as tragedy, but as renewal. The wave must collapse to feed the next. Atlantis was not destroyed. It was transformed. Its harmony dissolved into the pulse of the world itself. Imagine now the seabed far below. The light filters down, thin and blue. Tiny motes drift through the water like dust in a sunbeam. A marble column lies on its side. A broken harp gleams faintly in the sand. And in the quiet, a small current moves through an open doorway, playing the same melody the flutes once sang above. Nature anchor. The sea hums softly in your ears. The world is vast but kind. Every echo fades into peace. Above the surface, centuries passed. New sailors charted the Atlantic, their compasses trembling as if drawn by unseen forces. They told stories of strange murmurs beneath the waves, low, harmonic tones that rose at dusk and faded with the dawn. Some called it coincidence, but when they listened closely, they swore they heard the faint rhythm of voices, chanting, calm and endless. Even now, when storms rage across the ocean, there are moments of perfect stillness after the thunder. When the wind holds its breath, in that instant, if you listen closely enough, you might hear it too. A soft echo in the distance, the heartbeat of a vanished island. Take another breath. In, hold, out. The sound of the sea matches your pulse. You are not apart from it. You are within it, a small light in an infinite tide of stars. For everything that falls returns in another form. The people of Atlantis live on, in the calmness of the ocean, in the patience of the moon, in the silence that arrives before dawn, and perhaps in moments of deep rest. We remember them without knowing. We drift where they once walked. We breathe as they once sang. Mini sleep cue. Now, let your breath fall into stillness. Inhale like a wave rising. Exhale like a star fading. You are surrounded by soft light. The glow of ancient memory. The peace of an ocean at rest. No time, no loss, only rhythm. You drift beneath the constellations, and each pulse of your heart is another lantern floating upward into the memory of stars. The ocean is quiet now, not empty, not gone, only vast and slow, breathing in rhythms older than time. The stars above shimmer faintly, and beneath them, the deep currents move with patience, carrying with them what remains of Atlantis. Not stone, not gold, but essence. The sleep of empires is never a single moment. It is a surrender, a drifting into the long current of forgetting, beneath the waves. The marble walls are softened by coral. Columns bloom with light. As small creatures weave their homes within once proud halls. The statues, once gleaming, are now dusted in blue. They no longer remember their names, and so they are finally at peace. Nature anchor. The sea hums low, a vibration deep within your ribs. Each breath you take joins that sound. Like two notes of one melody, the water moves around you, cool, forgiving. You drift. and the weight of the world releases its hold. The myths say that the gods turned their faces away, but perhaps they simply closed their eyes, as one does before sleep, for even divinity must rest, and when it does, its dreams become the tides. In those dreams, Atlantis still glows. The lanterns rise again, their flames reflected upon the silver sea. The towers stand. The songs echo softly through the chambers of memory, but the sound is slower now, as though sung underwater. Melancholy, beautiful, infinite. Take a slow breath. In, 4, hold, 7, exhale, 8. Let your breath carry the rhythm of the sea. Your heartbeat drifts closer to its calm. Your body, weightless, remembers what it means to float. Above, the world continues. Ages turning like pages. Civilizations rising, shining, fading. Each believes it will last forever. Each, in its own way, becomes Atlantis. But there is comfort in that truth, because nothing that falls into the sea is truly lost. It only changes form, waiting to rise again. Reflection. Empires do not die. They rest. They dissolve into the fabric of time, so that others may breathe. Every ruin becomes the soil of another beginning. The same ocean that swallowed Atlantis will one day cradle the dreams of new worlds. All things are connected by this endless tide. You, me, them, and the silence between us. Nature anchor. A ripple of current moves past. Soft as silk. It touches your hands, your chest, and flows away. The sea does not cling. It carries. Imagine now the city as it drifts in the deep. The gardens have become forests of coral. The market squares shimmer with schools of silver fish, where voices once spoke. Currents whisper in their place. The flame of Poseidon, that eternal light, now glows in every flicker of bioluminescent life. Each tiny spark, a memory, a soul, a pulse of what once was. Above the water, the stars mirror the same pattern, points of light scattered across infinity. The sea and the sky exchange glances. They remember. Take another breath. In, hold, out. The air enters like the tide and leaves as gently as it came. Your body melts deeper into calm. Your mind becomes soft and wide like the horizon. The philosophers once said that Atlantis was not merely a place, but a reflection of the soul, the longing of humankind for perfect harmony. Perhaps they were right. Perhaps Atlantis still exists, not under the sea, but within every quiet moment, when we pause long enough to listen. In the heart's silence, there is a city that has never fallen. It glows with understanding. It breathes with peace. When you close your eyes, you return there, to marble halls without sound, to a sea that forgives, to a sky that never ends. Mini sleep cue. Now, breathe slower. Inhale the calm. Exhale the past. Each thought floats away like a lantern upon still water. The body grows lighter. The world quieter. Atlantis fades, not into darkness, but into serenity. You drift in its wake, a small ember among endless stars. You are safe. You are home. Let go. Let the sea keep watch while you rest. Let the empire sleep. The night has deepened. The stars shimmer softly above a sea that has forgotten its storms. Far beneath the surface, the ruins of Atlantis lie in perfect quiet. Pillars wrapped in coral, courtyards glimmering like mirrors of moonlight. And somewhere in that silence, a single lantern still drifts. Its flame is small but steady, a pulse of gold against the endless blue. It floats between worlds, between the memory of stone and the dream of water. Each flicker is a heartbeat, each ripple a whisper of all that once was. Nature anchor. The sea breathes slowly. A current moves through the deep, carrying warmth and sleep. Above, the stars reflect themselves upon the waves. The same light that once shone in marble halls, now scattered across infinity. The flame drifts farther, past the quiet gardens of coral, past the broken statues that smile faintly in the dark. It passes through arches of silver sand and rises slowly toward the surface. Take one last breath with it. In 4, hold, 7, exhale, 8. Let everything loosen. The breath leaves your body like the tide leaving shore. When the lantern breaks through the water, its light touches the air. It trembles once, then steadies, shining softly under the stars. The ocean exhales, and the wind carries the scent of salt and quiet. Above the horizon, dawn gathers, not bright, not sudden, only a faint silver glow. The first wave of morning slides over the sea, and where the lantern floats, its flame bends and becomes part of the sunrise. Atlantis is gone, but its peace remains in every ripple, in every calm night, in every slow breath before sleep. It lingers, not as legend, but as rhythm, the soft pulse of balance remembered. You do not need to seek it. You are already there. The sea watches. The stars keep time. The lantern drifts on, carrying your dreams toward the quiet horizon. Now, close your eyes. Let the light fade gently behind them. The silver sea hums below. The night folds around you. History will keep watch. While you rest,